The Virus of Consciousness. By Eric Rains and Vera Ingeborg. Nausea, extreme exhaustion, an intense longing to just sleep, endless thought spirals and recurring emotional breakouts. This is the current experience and reality not only for people just waking up, but also for people that have been on this path for a longer time and had already raised their frequency to a fifth dimensional level. They had already been enjoying the ease and flow of this plane, being completely in the now, their true authentic self and completely free. All of a sudden it feels like being back to square one. How can that be after all the work done? How can I fall back so much? There is a reason for it, and the experience can be turned around quickly again. We have to start by becoming aware of how the matrix works and how we are manipulated energetically in case we do not have this discernment yet. And please, this is nothing to be upset or scared of. The more you treat the situation and yourself with love, the easier you navigate through. Yes, there has been a lot of solar activity and solar flares, and that certainly is one explanation for it. But usually, people with a very high frequency are no longer reacting that strongly emotionally, mentally and even physically on these events, simply because they have done their inner work and do not resonate with these low frequencies anymore. So there must be more to this. And there is. With this article, we would like to introduce you to the illusionary 3D/4D plane of duality, also from a spiritual angle, and how this whole program matrix is operated. And, of course, most importantly, how to re-establish your true energetic flow and well-being. The Matrix and the illusion of duality. The Matrix only purpose is to keep people in fear. That is what the system we are currently living in and for, is getting its fuel and energy from. The entities that are so keen on keeping it running on the one hand are getting more and more desperate to find new ways to keep up the fear level amongst humans, which becomes more and more difficult with the average frequency on the planet constantly raising. On the other hand, they are also becoming more and more creative in tricking people into fear again. Because that is all they are interested in, to keep us in fear. That is what they feed off, that is the energetic air they need to breathe. That is all the operators of the Matrix are interested in, to keep us in fear. That is what they feed off, that is the energetic air they need to breathe. One of the most insidious ways the creators of this matrix were able to bring fear to the population, was to get us to believe that God is outside of us. By blocking the planet off from connecting into the conscious web that all information, God, flows through, and inciting generation after generation into programmed trauma and false karma, atrocity for the sake of nothing more than atrocity. The creators of this matrix were able to trick us into shutting ourselves away from God. Thousands of years down the line, when mankind was firmly seated into the third dimension, and shut off from seeing the effects of the energies we are connected into, these dark, negative beings cloaked themselves in a reflection of source light, and physically made contact with many prophets and gurus of the time. Mankind has had and always will have energetic guardians in the etheric realms that in a natural system can be easily connected to for learning purposes. These false light negative entities masqueraded as what most label as the archangels, or these guardians, and put many of the prophets and gurus through a crash course in labeling and giving a name to the infinite and directing that energy to themselves, and then sent them out to walk the world. Side note. It is important to recognize that these people are actually believing that they are helping you. They are not aware of the fact that they are preaching false light ideology and belief systems that keep people in fear, attachment and dependency by blindly following their teachings. What rose from these interactions were doctrines and religions that began to structure and trap into a box all that is. Since mankind was connected in on the deepest levels into creator energy, every single one of us felt the pull of something more than just the physical reality around us when we came across it. Since none of us had truly pure information other than what had been filtered down from traumatized generations throughout history, when we feel that innate spark of connection inside of us flare to life as instinctive understandings begin to blossom, we instinctively know that there is a creator out there. What happens is that most oftentimes people connect to these awakenings of creator energy inside of themselves through the teachings in religion. All of the core religious teachings are basically the same: do unto others as you would have done to yourself. Forgive yourself and the people in your life. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Basically, be a good person. When these energies are focused upon, your soul springs to life. You are connecting into where you came from, and because these things are found within the religious texts and practices, suddenly the doctrine becomes the source of these feelings, and since these teachings are telling us over and over that God is outside of us, that connection to source, that flaring of exuberance and joy as your vibration begins to lift becomes something that you have to reach outside yourself for. Through the generations, this has become the key to divinity. Through the outside, despite the fact that each of us has God inside of us. Our bodies are the temple for the Holy Spirit. They have to tell us this information flat out. What they tricked us into believing is that the Holy Spirit /source /creator /Shakti /God Tiamat whatever you want to call creator energy is outside of us. Growing up from childhood indoctrinated into this system cements these pathways energetically, collectively, emotionally, physically and mentally. By believing God is outside of us, we were then able to be cut off from it. By believing God is outside of us, we were then able to be cut off from it. Separation from source allows the body to become toxic and unstable energetically simply because there is no clean flow able to keep stuck pathways clean and open. Energetic toxicity that stays long enough in the body begins to cause physical pain. Physical pain in the body long enough causes the brain to shut down functional flow from the area where the pain is, simply because the brain cannot handle the influx of such a sustained pain threshold. Even more importantly, it cuts off flow from the consciousness to the body. This results in humans, on the surface completely aware of their reality of 3D, yet underneath connected into multi-dimensional energies stemming from their individual emotional, energetic, psychological and mental states of mind that they are completely and totally unaware of. This leads to extremely easy energetic manipulation to lead to different energetic, emotional states. Consequently, anything spiritual tends to be thought of as something on the outside that needs to be learned. Attention is led to the logical mental processes that are easily hijacked, led astray and distracted, completely ignoring the fact that true spirituality is nothing more than following the message, not the messenger. This ends up with someone who knows that there is much more to life than waking up to go to work 5 days a week, drinking on the weekends, and doing it all over again until some bills come in the mail to break up the monotony, but are constantly looking outside for information or a guru to show them the way. So many people drawn to spirituality are on a constant search for more information to figure it all out with their head. And here the Matrix succeeds again in keeping people away from their true connection to source through the heart. The false light will always connect into your head. And the head is not capable of transmuting energy, that is only possible through our feelings and emotions. The false light will always connect into your head. And the head is not capable of transmuting energy. That is only possible through your feelings and emotions. The answer has always been within. These matrix creators put us here because they could corrupt our innate spark of source inside of us and then feed off of it. There is the key. The innate spark of source inside of us. The body is the key, and logical, mind-based thinking is not the language of the body. Feeling, emotion, image, impulse and visualization are. By connecting into the body, and exploring sensation instead of mind traps, anyone can bypass the matrix and hook directly into creator energy. So stop thinking and start feeling, connect to your heart and learn the language of energy. This language can only be felt through your body. What are the energetic impulses telling you? This is what is meant by going with the flow, the energetic flow of the universe in alignment with your own energetic flow. Implants and the geomagnetic storm. Now, after having understood all of this, let's go back to the geomagnetic storm that took place from March 27 to March 31. That storm was different from storms we have experienced in the past. It actually caused a drop of the planetary frequency over several days back onto a third-dimensional level. This was intentional to push more people still caught up in 3D into their awakening and provide activating energetic codes. This drop had a side effect though. It caused an intermediary adaptation of the auric fields of people that had already been in higher frequencies to this lower frequency. And with that, it granted access to the auric field for low-frequency energy implant technology and low-frequency entities, parasites. An entity is a negatively oriented consciousness, intelligent, sentient, able to communicate, feels emotions, has an agenda, that is strong enough to influence the energetic, physical body and field of a human or animal, without needing the victim's field to survive. A parasite is the same exact thing as an entity, a complete, sentient consciousness with thoughts and feelings, 100% of them being negative, but this consciousness needs the host to survive. It has not yet become big or strong enough to not need a host and graduate to the actual entity status. These entities use devices constructed on the etheric levels to affect the people they are attached to directly. These entities use devices constructed on the etheric levels to affect the people they are attached to directly. With the rising frequencies on the planet, the negative agenda of the Matrix controllers has been losing effectiveness, strength and range of influence, and in retaliation to the ground lost, they are pulling out all the stops and using the highest levels of etheric technology at 100% capacity. Shackles, chains, and other anchoring devices, found most often connected to one or both ankles. This type of etheric device causes fear of success, travel, the unknown, new things, etc. The etheric metal is extremely dense and heavy, and drags down with invisible weight. People who feel like they have the weight of the world on their shoulders do not feel that way because there is much on their mind. They feel that way because of devices such as this that can add weight and drag down the energy body. They are found most often on people who have brilliant ideas and cannot make themselves actually implement them, want to move and experience new things, yet can't leave their hometown, want to leave an abusive or draining relationship but can't seem to actually get the motivation to go, or any type of holding back types of behavior that do not allow people to grow despite wanting to. Spinal column control rod. This device is found in most cases of entity attachment. The central channel has multiple energetic points up the spine and down the front of the body where entities prefer to tap into people's energetic field. Once the energetic center is penetrated, the entity burrows its way into the spine, where it then connects into the spinal column and spinal cord. Using this neural pathway, it coats the physicals and energetic flow up the spine with dark, organic material. Stretching from the pelvis to the head, the entity can then reach into any area of the body and implant devices in the areas described further below in this article. More importantly, this control rod allows the entity control over multiple implants at one time. If the entity is trying to shut the host down, it can activate the solar plexus implant to attack the confidence and self-worth, at the same time sending the chatterbrain implant into overdrive with negative self-talk, or any other type of combination. Removing this control rod is key in unblocking the central channel flow, as well as making it much easier to remove anything else found in the body. Oftentimes, when removing this device, the energetic connection leading directly to the entity can be felt, allowing for removal and extraction of the actual entity fairly simply. Head octopus parasite. This parasite attaches to the top of the head, siphoning off multiple meridians in the head. Most of the organs in the abdomen correspond to meridians beginning or ending in the face and head. This parasite attacks all of the functions in the head, from blocking the third eye, blocking source connection, activating the chatterbrain function, blocking central meridian flow, and in some cases, hijacking the optic nerves to force visions into the brain, almost like projecting onto a movie screen, but the retina instead. It will wrap around the head and face, sinking into the astral body with tendrils or tentacles of dark, organic energy, anchoring in anywhere it can find purchase. More often than not, this type of parasite attacks the vagus nerve, which handles many parasympathetic nervous system responses, most notably, the fight or flight response. People who suffer crippling anxiety, non-stop chatter in the head, severe panic attacks, obsessive-compulsive behavior, and violent migraines oftentimes have this type of parasite attaching to their head. Gallbladder meridian, temple chatter brain, coming in multiple shapes, forms and modalities from AI wires, chips and automation to black metal framework with organic feelers to full-blown organic parasite infestation. These devices in the temple always have one job, to study the frequencies and brain patterns of the host, and begin to replicate the frequencies of the host's inner voice. We have 3 different voices in our reality. We have the voice that we hear coming from our voice boxes while speaking, the voice everyone else hears from outside of our body, and the internal voice we speak in our heads with. This device isolates the internal voice algorithms and begins to ingeniously mimic them to the point that unless awareness of the device is already in place, the host will simply mistake the chatterbrain/monkey mind implant for their own internal voice. The purpose this device is to simply distract and confuse. If the host begins to ask the important questions such as, why are we here? And what is my purpose? Why do I exist? The device is programmed to lead them away from the path those esoteric questions would lead them down. It will constantly bombard the host with distractions that pull them out of the present, constantly having them remember the past, or putting them in fear or apprehension of the future. Of all the devices and implants used in these systems, this is most often the most easily recognizable. Once this device is gone, complete silence becomes the natural state of being in the mind. In a completely clear body, the only noise in the head is what is actively being thought, that is, a hello. Would not be heard unless an active, hello, was yelled into the head by the internal voice, or a song would not be playing in the background unless it was actively being played in the head. The physical symptoms of these devices are cloudy, dazed perception, lack of perception, that is, it takes longer than it should to pick up on happenings around you, and headaches most often in the temples and front of the head, but can be found anywhere. More often than not, the headache symptoms are not an all-over blanket pain, but a small point where it feels like something is pressing, poking or pushing through, and the pain level can become quite high. Voicebox Constrictor, Frequency Modulator. This device has 2 functions that I have run into. The first is a shutting down of the lines of communication from the brain to the words being spoken through a closing off of the throat in a physical constriction, or a deconstruction of the language into nonsensical run-on sentences or complete gibberish. This symptom is most often activated when the host begins to step into and vibrate in their truth. For example, someone who is constantly struggling with self-esteem and confidence issues begins to start stepping into a place of strength and speaking up for themselves. They will notice the throat closes up, making speech difficult, or the words just completely fly out of their head. This causes the voice-breaking tenor or extremely shaky speech, almost like they are speaking through a body suffering hypothermia. Another example would be when the host begins to recognize the deeper nature of the universe, and when trying to speak of these concepts, and along with a constriction, they find themselves completely butchering the concepts they are reveling in, or just not being able to physically talk because every time it is like they have a mouth full of mush. This often leads people attacked on this level to be shy when it comes to speaking to people they do not know, and regular neural flow between the brain and lines of verbal communication are not exercised, and the situation often becomes much worse until the host begins to actively work and focus on making these neural connections a priority again. The other function found here is what I have called a frequency modulator. This device goes over top of the voice box, and what it does is shift the frequency that the host is speaking on. More often than not, this is used against someone who has already reconnected the neural lines of communication that were attacked, and is now speaking deeply from their resonance of truth. Since communication cannot be stifled from the source, what ends up happening is that the device makes it so that it seems people never even recognize that the host is speaking. They will hear them talk, but the level of communication that their brain is picking up is relegated to background noise. An example would be that traffic in the background is definitely a noise that can be heard and tuned into, but why would you ever recognize the sequence of revving engines, squealing brakes and tires rolling on the asphalt? This is the level of frequency that the host ends up speaking on with this device implanted on top of the voice box. Solar plexus clamps / cages / constrictors / etc. Anything found in the pit of the stomach where the rib cage meets in the front of the body, is always going after the confidence, anxiety and self-esteem of the host. This is one of the most common implants almost everyone recognizes simply for the fact that it is recognized every time that aching, burning ball in the pit of the stomach related to anger, shame, depression, sadness or hopelessness is felt. The other physical sensation of this device is a torsion, or constriction in the area, almost like something is being physically twisted or wrenched in the solar plexus, lower heart. The devices here range in shape, size, construction and strength depending on the level of attention going into shutting down the confidence, and can be found as metal clamps, cages wrapping around the energetic center, tentacles burrowing into and around the area, and all the way to miniature black holes or singularities that connect negative space with 3D reality. The energetic and emotional symptoms will include varying ranges of shyness, lack of self-esteem, constant negative self-talk, aversion to interaction, lack of confidence in personal ability, anxiety, paranoia, inability to release trauma, PTSD-like symptoms, apathy and depression. These symptoms can range from minor annoyances all the way to crippling phobias depending on the intensity of energy placed into the implantation and monitoring. These devices are constantly on alert and scanning for any positive feelings of self-worth, confidence, excitement or self-love to hijack them into repeating emotional trauma loops and thought cycles, thus making the cycle of recurring issues pop up whenever self-improvement moves into the conscious focus. Basically all of these implants are causing this feeling of replaying the past for people that had already moved up in frequency. It is like a program loop repeating itself, causing thought spirals that are not possible to be dissolved in the regular way through an emotional release, because it is fake and it is not yours. It is just a software running, giving you this impression, all with the intention to freak you out and keep you in fear. Therefore, there is no emotion attached to it that could dissolve it. The same counts for the emotional loops. These are like a constant trigger plugging into your lower chakras to simulate this replay. On a side note, people who do not have chakras anymore as their frequency was already completely anchored in 5D did not experience the emotional part. No chakras? What? When we break apart a beam of sunlight with a prism, we are bending the light spectrum into slightly separate frequencies, and we can then see the visible light arrayed as the familiar red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet rainbow spectrum. What is not seen with our eyes, is that when we do this, we are only seeing about 5% of the entirety of the light frequency, such as infrared, X-ray, gamma ray, ultraviolet, etc. Doing the math, if we were to take that 5% of visible light, and then break it into 7 different pieces respective to each color in the spectrum, every color holds 714% of the full spectrum of light. What this means is that each of the 7 chakras in the body from root to head are limited into only 714% of the energy that should be accessible. The natural state of humanity and the energy our body uses is brilliant white, gold, just like the sun. The natural state of humanity and the energy our body uses is brilliant white, gold, just like the sun. The golden frequency is not exclusionary, it is not saying, I will not use the violet flame, or the blue light of healing. What the brilliant golden chi energy does is use the entire frequency of the light spectrum, but more importantly, the energy that we are not able to see, where these entities reside. By attuning your chi to this frequency, You begin to be able to clean your body out of energy that was inaccessible before, and more importantly, begin priming your energetic centers to make the jump out of the 7-layer color systems of chakras into the 3-point golden stars of the Dantian system that the ancient Chinese had mapped out thousands of years ago, one in the head, one in the heart, one the lower abdomen. These are also often referred to as your 3 brains. A simple sensory meditation of truly feeling the color and vibration of the 7-layer chakra systems for an extended period of time until they are very obvious, and then allowing these points to float on a golden, white background will allow you to prime yourself into this activation. When the body is ready, the intent to release these colors back into the whole will allow source energy to ignite inside these 3 Dantian centers. If the energy body is not ready for this transition, more work is needed to buffer the pathways needed to facilitate this integration, and nothing will be felt out of the normal when doing this meditation, but each time it is done, it will open up the energetic, physical and neural pathways needed, simply because the body responds in the language that the body speaks. Sensation, emotion, impulse, visualization and image. When successful, there will be no doubt. Energy in a magnitude and scope completely unfelt before will explode out of these 3 points, hypertuning you into the immediate lower etheric realms. It feels very different from the energetic flow through the chakras. Instead of spinning energy, the flow is now like a golden pillar through your whole body. The key is consistency and practice. Think of a rusted shut door that needs to be kicked in order to actually open. Each kick primes the one that finally allows the door to fly open, but without each one before there would be no moment of the door flying open. How to remove these implants quickly. So what we are experiencing right now is far more than the effects of solar activity. We are actually dealing with a collective implant plague right now. Again, this is nothing to freak out or be upset, angry about or afraid of. Always remember, that is exactly the frequency that the Matrix and its operators want you to be in. Instead, follow this simple process to establish your true self again. The most important part of this process is to connect to your heart. That is where you are connected to Source. And that means to stop thinking and start feeling. As said, the old system will do anything to keep you distracted from discovering your ability to feel, because that would mean you would discover the key to true ascension. The old system will do anything to keep you distracted from discovering your ability to feel, because that would mean you would discover the key to true ascension. We find it very important that you learn how to do that yourself to make sure you keep your power and do not give it away to others. It is always fine to ask for assistance, but you should always stay in charge of your own energy field. Hypnosis, spiritual drugs and a lot of alleged energetic healing methods are quick ways to give your power away and open yourself up to energetic manipulation, taking you into the illusionary astral realm of the false light matrix. How to remove implants and entities from your system. Go into that thought spiral, emotional loop or physical issue and feel the energy of it. Follow the energy of it to its anchor point, origin in your system. Where does it make you feel uncomfortable? Where does the energy not flow but feels blocked? You will be able to spot exactly where the implant, entity sits. It is enough to feel it, you do not have to see it. Imagine yourself in your most favorite spot on this planet or somewhere else. It is a place that provides you with everything that makes you feel good, powerful and at ease, brings you into the now and is giving you a strong energetic support. Now think of all the traits that you would love to incorporate if you had the magic wand and could create the best and powerful version of you. How would you like to be perceived, look like, feel like, act like etc. Feel all of these traits and speak them out loud while staying in your power place. Feel the energy of these words and how they are expanding within you with the support of your powerful surroundings. Feel how this power in your heart and see it as a golden, glowing energy ball that is growing and expanding into your whole body. You will notice immediately how the spiraling stops and you come into a feeling of inner peace and balance when you are in your heart space. Now imagine that golden energy flowing through your hands. Take your hands to the place where you spotted the implant. Hold your hands over it and imagine how this golden energy is flowing all around the implant. Send all the love coming from your heart to this implant and form a golden energy love ball around it. This has the effect to raise the frequency in this place intensely, so the hooks of the implant have no chance to stay plugged in. The particles are vibrating too high and the density gets too low for that. Now imagine that you have completely enclosed that entity or implant in this golden stream, kind of like an insect enclosed in amber. When you feel this is completely done, then start pulling that ball out of your auric field. You can even use your hands to actively support that. Keep the implant enclosed in that ball once you have it removed. It might happen that you feel a bit emotional when pulling it out, and the physical body might even react with dry purging, puking reflexes. Shortly after, you should feel the place where the implant was filling up with love, feeling very light, warm and comfortable. Go back into your heart space again while holding the ball outside of your aura. Connect to your heart and imagine a golden pillar of light coming down directly from source, the central sun. When this pillar is complete, take the ball, put it into the pillar and say out loud, "I release you back to the central sun." Say out loud, "I, in accordance with my free will, do not allow any energetic implant in my field anymore." Sit back, feel into your heart space again and enjoy the smooth flow of energy through your system. We hope that this helps you to feel better again immediately. Never forget, these are the last desperate attempts of the Matrix and the old system to keep the fear frequency alive. The less we fight them and the more we wrap them into our true light and love, coming from the heart, the more we embrace them, the quicker they dissolve into the light. Please note that this process of implant removal does not represent a shortcut, spiritual bypassing in your spiritual journey. There is no way around your own inner work dealing with your own emotional traumas, belief systems and patterns. Implant removal only helps to take off additional burden and energetic draining from you that was programmed into you. The texts I share are always based on my intuition, downloads, and/or on experiences of clients and my own. I do not claim what I share to be the ultimate truth. I encourage you to only take what resonates to find your own truth and wisdom. As this is universal wisdom, I do not claim any copyright. Please feel free to share this content as long as you keep its message complete so that the meaning does not get twisted. Thank you. With lots of light and love, Vera Ingeborg.